What is happening, whiners and blinders? My name is KotyTang. Instead of doing issue 50, cause wow, that's taken a bit, I give you this instead. Sonic Racing Crossworlds is alright, I guess. It's Mario Kart if Mario Kart was Sonic, and that's pretty neat. Just like Mario Kart, it's a fun game you play for 30 minutes to an hour, then you go play anything else because everything else is better. Then maybe you can come back to it every other week to do the same thing. It might be a cool game you play with that new girl you're trying to show.
That fire cock.
Or guy, I don't know, whatever you're into. I would have much preferred a modern day Sonic Riders rather than Mario Kart with extreme gear, as, you know, Sonic Riders actually feels like what a Sonic racer would be like. I've got no problem with Sonic trying to be more like Mario, and also the fact that it's becoming increasingly obvious that Nintendo and Sega are working together behind the scenes, with two games now mysteriously releasing in the same year, following the same genre, Sonic Superstars and Mario Wonder, and now Crossworlds and Mario Kart 9. I'm wondering if we'll go for 3. Even so, it's good that Sonic Team and Sega have finally realized that making a good game is kind of important for games, as well as the ability to make a game that properly works. If following the footsteps of Mario is the push that Sega need to realize that they actually have to try and make a game when it comes to Sonic, I don't see a problem with it. It's no different than how they used to operate things anyway. They probably never should have stopped because they thought they had no competition, and the fans seem to have agreed anyway. So long as they learn what it takes to make a game by themselves and branch off from Nintendo back into what they're supposed to be, which is not the roller coaster games we've been getting for over a decade, Sonic Team, for whatever reason, has been trying to replicate Sonic Unleashed since it released. The game came out in 2008, guys, let it go. It worked for a little bit, but it's not what Sonic was supposed to become. It was actually always supposed to head into the direction of a high-speed action platformer like Frontiers and Sonic Boom. Although not done in a trash way, it's supposed to be good, right? That's the idea. Crossworld is going to be having Sonic Prime be the very first DLC. Fittingly, in a game named Crossworlds, we have characters from the story about crossing worlds. In terms of Sonic media, Paramount Shadow was actually the first to make it into an actual game, not some shitty scumbag-infested mobile product. With Sonic Prime being the first DLC for Crossworlds, what we've got here is Sonic Prime, which came out in December of 2022, releasing as selectable characters before anything in IDW gets to. In IDW's case, their first issue's release was in April of 2018, so that means Sega found the shitty show to be vastly more important than the thing that they directly confirmed was canon.
Is IDW canon? It is canon.
And even the movie, which doesn't relate to anything at all in the games. But we all should know why that's the case by now. Money.
The money, Skylar. Where is the rest? Where is the money?
That's right. If IDW was more popular and had at least similar attention as the games do, Sega would be all over it. The very fact that the IDW comics exists with next to no attention, praise, or even an ounce of valid advertising from Sega is impressive by itself. While Sonic Prime brought the franchise down a bit, I also understand that there's been few things as offensive as IDW. I've been covering it on my channel for quite a while now, and with that, I think it's safe for me to say at this point that Sonic IDW is only the second worst offender for Sonic canon. The very first will forever be the 2010 era. Game fans simply tend to stay away from IDW as they have no incentive to read it. The major takeaway I'm trying to present is why IDW should be one of the DLCs for Sonic Crossworlds. But first, I have to sever myself from the bias of some IDW hate readers in my audience who can't fathom the fact that I like a few of the characters or some plot lines in the comics. So that must mean I love the entire thing, because that's how simple-minded those kinds of people who tend to watch my IDW videos are. And it's fitting that the hate readers would think this way in the Sonic community. Linking multiple ideas to create one final idea has never been this community's strong suit. It's either the best thing ever or completely shit. With many, there is no in-between. I don't like IDW very much. I do like some of the moments that happen in them, and I do like the character designs and the art, but I don't like the stories as the writing is absolutely abysmal. Better than the 2010 era at the very least, I'll take poorly written young adult Sonic content over poorly written Nick Jr. Sonic content. The writing in the Sonic franchise has rarely ever been what I would call good, but at least IDW has more of substance than what we've been getting recently. There's something in IDW that the games have simply been missing for as long as I've been following this franchise, and that's believable characters, relationships, and world. That's where I come in. I'm a huge lover of writing. Sure, the gameplay has been improving excruciatingly slow every 5 years, but the writing of Sonic has never improved after Sonic Adventure 2, which that story isn't good either, but that's a whole other conversation. Sonic stories have only gone down in quality as time progressed, and it's something that very few in the community really talk about or even understand how to talk about. I do have a bunch of ideas about how the game should actually be in the future, but that's also a video for another day. What I will say is that the Sonic games should all start becoming high-speed action platformers. Frontiers being a testing ground where not just the story but even the gameplay is the team going, what do you think about this, huh? Action platformer? Speed? As if it wasn't obvious to them that that's where these games were heading from the start. Not surprising though, because Sonic Team has notoriously made some of the dumbest decisions imaginable, and still do to this day. I don't want Sonic to be the same forever. I want this franchise to actually evolve. See, the things that are good should stay, but the things that are bad shouldn't simply just leave. Although sure, many things should be permanently removed, but there's another layer that many Sonic fans don't understand, and that's a little thing called nuance. There are things that are bad, but actually should be kept, changed, and expanded upon. It's not bad per se, it's actually just not done correctly. And that's one of the places where the IDW comics come in, with their unique opportunity to tell stories and expand on the world and characters, so we can truly define who somebody is and what the world is like. You see, I would advocate for the games to actually do this and properly reach a degree of modern storytelling that just about any other hyper-popular franchise already has in the year of 2025, but that's like asking for snow to fall in a desert on a smoldering hot day. See, Sonic Team aren't very good writers themselves. That's why a lot of their stories are extremely vapid and one note, to the point where you have to wonder how many of these characters even became really close friends outside of just showing up to save the world. And that's not even getting into all of the lore inconsistencies and games that could have only been made in isolation from the team's actual vision. So how can IDW characters in Crossworlds help to shape the landscape of Sonic, you ask? Well, you great big dummy, here's a major reason to consider. The fact that we need more eyes on extended media for Sonic in order for the base stories to actually become more than just a dull one-off thing that you'll forget about tomorrow. Putting the IDW characters in an actual official console game will mean exposure to people that don't really know much about IDW otherwise, which means more eyes on the IDW comics, which means it'll start boosting in popularity, which means it'll get more attention from Sega, which means more monitoring from Sega, which means the comic has to really conform going forward, as the games will start working off the world that IDW is building, rather than just doing whatever they think is cool at the time and just rearranging everything however they please, because the games just never cared about consistency. If the world and the characters are built upon more, that means better storytelling, longer games, and more complete narratives. If IDW has to conform to Sonic Team's demands in a more proper way, then the IDW team has to be even more strict with the characters when it comes to how close they are to the games. Look, Ian could say whatever he wants to, but wait, actually, no, he can't. He accepted a silence agreement by Sega on a show that he runs entirely independently. Anyway, regardless of what Ian used to say, as far as I've read, some of the IDW characters are nearly unrecognizable in some cases. But I do like how IDW actually works toward unifying the consistency of the canon into a fully believable world, something that the Sonic games have failed to do repeatedly, even to this day. I will say that while IDW does try to unify everything, the team is full of people that are not really good writers, so while you can see them trying to keep the world consistent, they do a bad job at that even still. As I said before, bad doesn't always mean something needs to be removed. In some cases, it actually means that it's just not being done properly. Regardless, more attention on the IDW comics means more revenue for Sega. More revenue for Sega means more Sonic games. More Sonic games means more spin-offs. With more spin-offs comes more chances for actual stories to be made instead of the one-off, lowbrow storytelling storytelling we've been getting for nearly 35 years. With more eyes on IDW, that means that there will be more massively negative reviews coming in swarms toward IDW's everlasting shitty writing, which means the IDW team is forced to change how they write these stories to better fit the public outcry, just like the games have been doing as of recent for their gameplay. It's all a domino effect. You gotta think long term, not short term. In the long term, if we delete IDW as comics, now we don't have stories that explore anything. We just have to wait another 7 years for a game to finally come out. But by keeping IDW for the long term, we can mold IDW so that Sega understands what type of writing the community actually wants to see. While in the short term, of course, IDW gets axed and now there are no stories exploring anybody, we don't get to see any of these characters anymore, and Sonic Team just continues as usual. You want a story with Blaze? You're not gonna get that. You want a story about Knuckles? You're not gonna get that. Short-term goals don't breed everlasting success. It just temporarily prolongs success until it eventually fails. And when it fails, now you're not equipped to innovate because you've been playing it safe for years and years and haven't presented or explored enough new concepts. That's also a major reason why the story of Frontiers just doesn't matter at all. It presented ideas, but it didn't explore any of those ideas. We have no idea what any of these characters are going to be doing in the future. We just have ideas of what maybe they'll do. Wait, hold on, what's that? It doesn't matter because IDW is dying anyway. These comics won't last long enough for their inclusion to matter? Well, that may be, but by putting these characters in these games, it will officially solidify them eternally should the time ever come that IDW loses the Sonic license. And now here comes the long term. All of these characters can be carried over to anywhere else as they have officially become true Sonic characters, so another company can then pick them up and actually give these new characters and stories the love they deserve with brand new writers. If your short-term goal is for IDW to completely fail and everything they've ever built to just be destroyed, well, the long-term clearly shows that, well, now no one else has anything to work off of. Now we'll have to start from zero with writers that we don't even know, working on characters that we have no idea if anybody's gonna like. Or we just never get a comic again. We have one now, so let's improve the one that we got instead of just completely deleting it. Look, we don't gotta like how the IDW team does things and handles their PR. Everybody who's read IDW likes Daniel Barnes' Scrapnik Island and Caleb Gollner's Reflections. It's not IDW itself, it's just the abysmal writing team. With more popularity of the comic, you guys could advocate for better writers if you all had a louder voice. Just saying. The IDW team are all freelance writers. Evan Stanley is the only one with a real Sega contract. Speak up about the good ones, express dislike for the bad ones, and that's how you advocate for change. Tangle, Whisper, and Surge are 3 characters in IDW that I feel are screaming to let them into the games. They're literally designed to work for a video game setting. If we had actual good games that didn't just think that Sonic was the only character worth making decent gameplay for, we'd have a lot more opportunities to throw them in. If we had more competent writers and developers, we'd have multiple spin-offs for a variety of characters by now. Me personally, I don't want the IDW characters to die off. They're not bad ideas, and many of them could work in a game as characters. They just need somebody else to give them love. Unfortunately, I don't even trust Sonic Team's track record of writers to do this either. And the fact that Ian Flynn has been writing for every single thing in this franchise since Frontiers, except for what, one other thing at this point? Sonic Prime? Ironically, the thing that's going to be the first DLC, Sega really showing that they respect you and aren't just using you, Mr. Freelance Writer. We won't be getting better storytelling with Ian at the helm. I've said this before in my Metal Virus Saga review, Ian Flynn is not a good writer, he's just a really good idea guy. Ideas don't mean anything if you don't know how to write toward them. It's just visualized yapping at that point. It's no mystery why Sonic Prime and Paramount Sonic took off. They're easily accessible. Just take a seat and watch a movie or watch a few episodes and come back the next day. Oh, and most importantly, Sega actually advertises them, so everybody knows that they even exist and how to get access to them. Unlike IDW. I've talked to many Sonic fans thanks to this channel. Nobody playing the games has any reason to know these characters from the comics. A name drop in Frontiers isn't enough to breed interest.
I bet Tangle would love climbing around these ruins.
Nor is putting them in these extremely scumbag-ass scam-happy mobile games an equally scummy Roblox spin-off. These things do nothing for these characters. Nobody learns anything about them and don't care to experience them. The Sonic team, I don't know if you know this, but you as the company in charge have to show people why they should care about these things. That's your job as a company, taking care of your IP. Look, the fact of the matter is, without something like IDW existing for Sonic, the way Sonic Team does their stories, you'll likely never see your favorite character do anything again outside of a cameo. Rarely will they ever be directly involved in the story, properly interacting, nor getting their deserved screen time. Yeah, Blaze was in Generations, that's cool. Did she do anything noteworthy? Nope. Wow, isn't that interesting? But you know what? IDW's got you. They can write stories for Blaze and have her interacting and actually participating in the story. Wow, Trip the Sungazer's a pretty cool character. Will we see her again? Yeah, okay. We'll get right on that. You know who can get on that? IDW. So many things wrong with this franchise can be fixed by properly incorporating a comic book setting and then mashing them into the canon together so that you have this huge, massive, ever-expanding world. The major problem with IDW is that the writing is just terrible. So like I said, get more eyes on IDW and the writing of that should improve. You guys have to be capable of thinking past what we got in order to think into what we could have. Yeah, IDW sucks right now, but that doesn't mean it has to stay that way. Things like Sonic Prime are forever and eternally gonna be ass. IDW is an ongoing series. It can easily get better. The Sonic community is possibly one of the most backwards communities on the internet. Not only will they accept below average shit on the daily, they also grade the Sonic franchise on a curve separate from other media. You can't compare Sonic to the latest and greatest in platforming, you can only compare Sonic to the previous Sonic games. And it's no different when it comes to the stories. The Sonic community is a very broken fan base, with even more broken content creators with heavily biased voices running the show and swaying opinions on a whim that people have been following for years. In IDW, Starline mentions the idea that I'm about to present here already. A Sonic game releases, it's mid, but not exactly ass, everybody plays it for a little bit, the big voices in the community gas up how amazing the game is for a bit, and the general populace returns to their regular lives. No evolution, no vision, no future for the Sonic franchise. There's multiple times that I've directly gone against the zeitgeist of the Sonic community, but I'd like to put on display two of mine that directly point out everything I dislike about this community. My Shadow Generations video, which maps out how poorly thought out the narrative actually is, and a video that I made 7 years ago when I was doing YouTube without direction. Yet, somehow, those ideas that I presented 7 years ago are still how I feel about the Sonic fan base today. I'm just tired of the average Sonic fan. Sonic is a 35-year-old franchise. They should have figured out how everything works by their 10th year at most. The way the fan base is today, it's one of the worst things for Sonic Team to listen to. That's why I want to be different from you guys. I don't like the standard you guys have set. I think it's f***ing stupid. So I'm gonna do my own thing.
Nah, I'm gonna do my own thing.
The f*** was that? Did anybody else hear that? Don't leave just yet, there's still more! But first, be sure to leave a comment if you've been enjoying the video! Leave a like as well while you're down there and subscribe to the channel for more of this Sonic content. I am a very active replier, so if you leave something nasty, I'ma get ya. Now back to the video. To sum this all up, the reason we need IDW and Sonic Crossworlds is simply because that is the next step to the evolution of this franchise. IDW is the gateway to better storytelling that the games are simply lacking in. IDW seeks to match an era where things actually mattered in this franchise and characters were people inside of a world rather than a bunch of stories atrociously stitched together. The more popular something like IDW gets, the more Sonic Team and by extension Sega will understand that proper storytelling is very much wanted. With better stories, it means the games have to be longer to fit those stories. The games have to be better and more innovative to fit all of these changes coming in and characters that they have to make room for, which means they'll need to make more games. Not really main games, but more spin-off games. Things that can focus on Shadow's story, or Knuckles' story, or Amy's story, or anybody else's story. We can have the major games be one giant story that bleeds into these spin-offs and the next major game. Anywhere else, that would be how it's done. You have your main continuity and then your side games that are just for fun, and then the main continuity brings everything together. With more games coming out, in order for Sega to make a profit off of these, then they have to be good, and they have to get more than just Sonic fans on board. They have to compete with the industry. The message that every single fan is sending by backing away from things like IDW is that we don't want more in-depth stories. We don't want more going on with these games. We don't want to explore these characters. We don't want to push back and question the understandings of this world and how it operates. And we don't want to see anybody change. Everything should be exactly as it was 20 years ago and never evolve from that. Ever. That's all I got for you this time, everybody. I'm going to try to do more thought pieces like this going forward. I want you guys to kind of come into my world and understand me as a YouTuber past the IDW comics that majority of you have subscribed to me for. IDW is more of a testing ground of, can I become a YouTuber? And this is me actually trying to become a voice in this community for real. I don't want to be like many others where I'm just yapping to fill a video slot. I want to yap with purpose, as I actually want to add to the conversation that can lead to advancing the franchise as a whole. Like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, join the Eggman Empire Discord. Okay, bye!